You're in the middle of a conversation, and suddenly, you hear yourself say something you never planned to say. A secret, a fear, something deeply personal. And the moment it leaves your mouth, you feel it. That instant wave of regret. Your brain goes, "Why did I just say that?" And then, the replay starts. You go over it, again and again, in your head, for hours. That was too much. They must think I'm so weird. But here's what I want you to understand before anything else. That feeling, that cycle, it is not a flaw. Psychology says it points to something rare about the way your mind works. Stay with me, because by the end of this video, you will never see yourself the same way again. You know the feeling, right? You're with someone, maybe a coworker, maybe someone you just met, and they ask you one simple question, and somehow, you end up telling them about your childhood, your anxiety, your complicated relationship with your parents. Not because you wanted to, it just came out. Or maybe this one hits closer. You're in a group and everyone is keeping it light, but you open your mouth and suddenly you're going deep. Emotions, heavy stuff, the things you usually keep locked away, and then the silence, that pause in the room, and your brain clocks it instantly. Too much. Oh, I said too much again. You drive home, you lie in bed, and your mind won't stop replaying it. Sound familiar? Good. Because you're exactly where you need to be. Here's what most people don't understand. Oversharing isn't a social flaw. It's not being too emotional. It's not attention-seeking. According to research in behavioral psychology, oversharing is often a nervous system response, triggered by emotional activation, a need for connection, or early conditioning. In simple terms, your brain learned, somewhere along the way, that talking felt safe, that sharing meant belonging, and your mind has been following that script ever since. That's that the problem isn't that you share. The problem is that nobody ever taught you when it's safe and when it isn't. So today we're going to look at the 7 rare psychological traits that oversharing people actually have. And I promise, by trait 3, you'll be nodding so hard. Quick note, this explores psychological patterns, not therapy or diagnosis. If oversharing causes significant distress, consider speaking with a mental health professional. Trait 1. Your emotional activation switches fast and your filter drops. The first trait is one that almost nobody talks about, but it explains so much. People who overshare tend to have a very fast emotional activation threshold, which means when you get emotionally stimulated in a conversation, your prefrontal cortex, the logical, should I say this, part of your brain, takes a back seat, and your limbic system, the emotional, instinctive part, takes over. It's not that you forgot to filter yourself, it's that in that moment, your emotions were running the show. Research has shown that individuals with high emotional reactivity often process feelings through verbalization. They need to say something to process it. Think of it like this. For most people, thoughts sit in their head. They think it, evaluate it, then speak. But for you, thinking and speaking happen almost simultaneously. The thought bypasses the filter, and it's out. This isn't weakness, it's actually a sign of a highly emotionally active mind. The challenge is that the world wasn't built for brains that feel first and think second. Trait 2. You're not seeking attention, you're seeking real connection. Here's something I need you to really hear. Most people who overshare aren't looking for attention. They're looking for realness. They're exhausted by surface-level conversation. Small talk feels hollow. Talking about the weather feels like wasting time. What you're actually craving, what your brain is hungry for, is genuine human connection. So, when you feel even a hint of that with someone, a moment of warmth, a sense of safety, your brain says, go, now, say the real thing. And you do. Because on some level, you'd rather be fully seen and possibly judged than be half known and completely alone. Psychologists call this a high connection drive. And for some people, it's deeply tied to patterns where emotional connection felt uncertain early in life, where closeness felt unpredictable or conditional. You learned, if I don't say it now, I might lose the window. So, you say everything, all at once. It's not neediness, it's years of emotional hunger for authentic connection. And that drive, even if it sometimes misfires, is one of the most human things about you. Trait 3. You think out loud because your brain processes through words. This one will click for a lot of you. Most people process thoughts internally. They think, reflect, then speak. But some people, and this is a documented cognitive style, process information externally through speaking. Psychologists call it verbal processing or extroverted thinking. It means your thoughts don't fully form until you say them out loud. You're not oversharing because you have no boundaries. You're oversharing because speaking is how your brain makes sense of things. It's like your mouth is part of your thinking process. And here's what's wild about this trait. People who verbally process tend to be incredible problem solvers. They're often sought out for advice because they can talk through a situation and find clarity that others miss. But the downside? In casual social settings, your brain doesn't always know it's switched into thinking mode. It just thinks out loud with an audience, and then 5 minutes later, you realize you've just told someone your deepest fear without meaning to. Trait 4. You have extremely high self-monitoring after the fact. Now, here's where it gets interesting. People who overshare almost always have very high self-awareness, not in the moment, but after. This is called post-event processing in psychology. It's the part where you go home, lie in bed, and your brain runs a full debrief on every single thing you said. Why did I say that? What were they thinking? Did I say too much? Yeah, I definitely said too much. This isn't anxiety for no reason. This is your high self-monitoring system doing its job, just delayed. People with high self-monitoring care deeply about how they come across. They're sensitive to social cues. They're perceptive. The problem is that monitoring kicks in after the conversation, not during. So during the conversation, you're open, flowing, real, and then afterwards, the internal critic shows up and audits everything. This is actually a sign of significant social intelligence. You're not oblivious to social norms. You're hyper-aware of them, just on a delay. And that delayed awareness is what creates the regret cycle. Not because you did something wrong, but because you care so much about connection and perception that your brain won't let it go. Trait 5. You fear being misunderstood, so you over-explain. This trait is one of the most underrated reasons people overshare, and it hits differently once you see it. You don't overshare because you want to dump on people. You overshare because you are terrified of being misunderstood. So you add context, and then more context, and then one more detail, just so they really get it. Psychologists call this excessive justification behavior. And for some people, it stems from environments where your words were frequently misinterpreted, dismissed, or used against you. Sometimes, though, this traces back to growing up in a household where you had to explain yourself perfectly or face consequences. Maybe someone important to you once said, "You always make things about yourself," and since then, you've been over-explaining as a form of self-defense. Think about it. You don't just say, "I can't make it." You say, "I can't make it because of this and that, and also this happened last week. And I just want you to know, I really wanted to come," but you explain until you feel safe, and that's not neediness. That's a nervous system trying to stay protected. Trait 6. You have a fawn pattern. You share to stay safe. This one might be the most important trait in this video, and it comes straight from behavioral psychology. Psychologists describe what some call a fawn pattern, sharing to create safety in relationships. It sits alongside fight, flight, and freeze as one of the ways our nervous system responds to perceived threat. It's the pattern of pleasing people to feel safe, and oversharing is often a fawn behavior. Here's what it looks like. You're in a conversation. You sense tension. You sense distance. You sense the other person might not like you. And instinctively, you open up. You share something personal, something vulnerable, something real, because somewhere deep in your nervous system, you learned, if I show them who I really am, they won't hurt me. Vulnerability equals safety. For some people, this pattern develops in childhoods where love or approval felt conditional, where you had to earn your place in the room. So, you learn to give people your realness as a way of paying for safety. And even now, even in conversations that aren't threatening at all, your nervous system still fires that old signal. Be real, be open. Yes, maybe then they'll stay. This isn't manipulation, it's a survival pattern that never got updated. Trait 7. You have a shame rumination loop, and it's keeping you stuck. And here we come to the final trait, the one that quietly connects everything you felt in this video. Because the real pain usually isn't the oversharing itself, it's what happens after. First comes that instant drop in your stomach, that "why did I say that" moment. Then the shame spiral shows up like a voice you didn't invite. You talk too much. You made it awkward. You're too intense. You're too much. And once shame takes the wheel, rumination follows right behind it. You replay the conversation like a security camera. You scan their tone, their pause, their expression. You rewrite your sentences in your head. You cringe. You punish yourself. You try to find the exact second you messed up, as if locating the mistake will somehow undo it. And that creates a loop that feels impossible to escape. You overshare, then you feel shame, then you ruminate, and the shame grows stronger. Now you feel even more exposed, even more unsafe. And the next time you crave connection, your nervous system pushes you to do the same thing again, because connection still feels like the only relief you know. Psychologists have studied this cycle, and the most important insight is this: the shame usually isn't created by the oversharing. Often it existed long before the oversharing ever happened. The oversharing was your attempt to release pressure, to be seen, to feel less alone, to finally feel understood. And when it doesn't land perfectly, that old shame rushes back like proof of a fear you've carried for years. Here's what I want you to understand. This loop is not permanent, and it is not your identity. It is a learned pattern, and learned patterns can be unlearned. You are not too much. You are someone whose nervous system learned to reach for safety in the only language it knew: words, honesty, and emotional truth. And the goal isn't to become silent. The goal is to become safe with yourself, even when you don't feel perfectly understood. Okay, now you know the why. You understand that oversharing isn't just talking too much. It's often your mind trying to regulate emotion, create connection, or feel safe in real time. But insight alone won't change the pattern unless you also have a few simple tools you can use in the moment and after the moment. So let's talk about the what now, because knowing your traits is powerful, but having a plan is what turns self-awareness into self-trust. Tool number 1 is what I call the 3-filter rule. Before you share something personal, pause for just a second and run it through 3 quick questions. First, is this relevant to the conversation right now? Not, is it true? Because it might be true. But is it actually needed in this moment? Or is it your nervous system trying to release pressure? Second, will sharing this help? Or will it only give temporary relief? Sometimes we share because it genuinely deepens the connection. Then other times we share because we feel anxious. And our brain thinks, if I explain everything, I'll feel safe. And third, am I in a safe space with someone who has earned this level of access to me? Because privacy isn't secrecy, it's healthy pacing. You don't have to answer all 3 perfectly. Just pausing long enough to ask them creates a small gap between impulse and action. And that gap is where your filter lives. That's where your choice comes back online. Tool number 2 is the pause phrase. This is one of the simplest things you can do, and it works because it slows momentum without making you feel awkward or shut down. Pick one phrase you can say to yourself, or even out loud, to buy your brain a few seconds. Something like, let me think about that for a second, or that's a good question, give me a moment, or even, I'm not sure how to explain it yet. That tiny pause is not wasted time. It's a reset button. It gives your mind a chance to check in. Do I want to share this? Or am I about to share it because I feel pressure? And if you're someone who processes by speaking, this tool doesn't silence you. It simply helps you speak with intention instead of urgency. Tool number 3 is the after-conversation reset, because the real pain often starts after you've overshared. That's when the replay begins. That's when your brain starts auditing every word, every detail, and every facial expression you think you saw. So instead of spiraling, do one small, grounding thing. Write down one thing you shared that was genuine and real, not cringeworthy, not the part you regret. Just one honest thing that reflects who you are. Because I guarantee you, inside almost every overshare, there was something true that deserved to be said. This practice trains your brain to stop labeling your openness as danger and start recognizing it as human. Then, just if you want an extra step, write one sentence you'll use next time. Something like, I'll share more later, or I'm still processing that. That way, your brain learns, I can be real without giving everything away at once. So, here's what I want you to take from this video. You are not broken because you overshare. You are not too much because you feel too much. You are someone who was never taught that your emotions were safe, and so you learned to release them in words, hoping someone would finally understand. That's not weakness. That is one of the most human things I've ever heard. The 7 traits you just learned aren't diagnoses. They're maps. And maps don't exist to shame you. They exist to guide you somewhere better. Now, I want to hear from you. Which one of these 7 traits felt the most like you? Drop the number in the comments: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, or 7. Just the number. You don't have to explain yourself. For once, you don't have to overshare.